KPRL presents Sound Off, the longest-running radio talk show in San Luis Obispo County. Sound Off on the North County's choice for local talk, KPRL. The views and opinions expressed on Sound Off do not necessarily reflect those of KPRL, its management, staff, or sponsors.
Sound Off on AM 1230, KPRL and 99.3 FM is brought to you by Davis Body Shop, your auto collision specialist in Paso Robles and Atascadero.
This is Sound Off, where the North County comes to talk on the right choice, KPRL.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Sound Off. I'm Dick Mason, and my guest this afternoon is live from the San Luis Obispo County Government Center. I'd like to welcome Darcia Stebbens. How are you this afternoon, Darcia?
Hi, Dick. Doing great. Thank you.
And how are things going with this recount? As I understand, you've been watching this for, several weeks now?
Almost 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks tomorrow. We started, mainly the process has been going very slowly. A lot of what we're actually doing here, as we're observing, is they are sorting out District 4 ballots from all the rest of the entire county ballot. So because the recount was only for District 4 supervisorial race, we had to have them pull out all of those ballots, and we're paying for that time for them sorting out and pulling out all of those ballots so they can actually be recounted. So we initially asked to have 5 of the first precincts that we had in order, and they've done that. We've recounted those, and then we had to sort out all of the remaining ballots to get down to the 4th district. So now, as of today, of about 15 minutes ago, in fact, now we've started recounting again, and now everything started. So for the next, I'm guessing 4 or 5 days, we'll actually be recounting. If anyone's interested in coming down, you can observe the process.
Well, I watched it Friday afternoon, and I was a little surprised. It's a slow process, isn't it?
Very slow. So we thought that the counting of the ballots and the processing of the ballots as they came in was slow. It's no different. They have 8 people, they call them recount boards, 8 people literally sorting out ballot by ballot by ballot by ballot to get to the ballots that have the District 4 race between Lynn Compton and Jimmy Paulding on that ballot.
And this is the only election that is being recounted, is the supervisor's race in the 4th district, the south end of the county, where Jimmy Paulding, I think, had 639 more votes than Supervisor Lynn Compton. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. In fact, it's the last one in the state that I'm aware of. There was one other county that called for a recount, but then did not follow through with that because it was going to be so expensive, actually.
So what?
They had that was an entire county-wide race, and so we selected District 4 race, which is 20,000, 21,000 votes.
And what are you learning from this recount, Darcia?
Well, people are asking us about the recount, what are you expecting? And I would say this, that if you count a cash drawer that has $1,000 in it, and you count it again and again and again, you may find that every time you still have $1,000. What we wanted to see were the ballots, all of the relevant material that they call relevant material, that could lend us to believe why we were seeing certain patterns and statistical anomalies, we'll call them. So if you have a couple $100, say $300 of that $1,000 in the cash drawer may or may not be exactly the same as the rest. We'll call it irregular dollars or not legal tender. You're recounting it several times, coming up with $1,000, but you know that $300 of that is monopoly money or some other kind of money, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
Have you seen any statistical anomalies?
Yes, quite a few. So that's what we were concerned about. There's a whole group of citizens that are concerned with the election integrity in this county and our state and our nation. And as we were down observing the adjudications, the process, the whole vote by mail process itself, that we had a lot of questions and we had a lot of concerns. And it's the vulnerabilities that we want to address. We at least want to be able to call that to everyone's attention. And I don't think that people realize that when they put a stamp, or in this case, now it's paid for, but when you return it, your ballot, fill it out, return your ballot by mail or Dropbox, or even go into a precinct, that those ballots are counted differently than you might think.
So let's talk about the number of vote by mail ballots, because this kind of surprised me. How many were sent out and how many people were actually lawfully registered?
So the county, one of the documents that we have that's issued, and it's even at the Secretary of State's website, is that the county sent out, they issued 187,000 ballots. The one I have is 187,017. So 187,000 ballots, and registered voters, registered active voters is what they call them. We have just under 182,000. So already right there, there's 5,000 extra ballots that have been issued that we don't have any idea who those people are. And it's hard to believe that 5,000 people spilled coffee on their ballot and needed to request another one.
But there are also people that may have moved or died or something else happened. Am I correct?
Sure. Yeah. So as we're going through this recount process, we also have access to all of the ballots of the envelopes that are undeliverable, according to the U.S. Postal Service. So we estimate there's about 2,200, 2,200 or so of those. So our contention is that the county clerk's office, indicated to us back in March and April that they did a thorough, going through all of the active voters, tried to look to anyone who had not voted in the 2021 recall, sent them a postcard saying, hey, are you still there? Are you still voting? Is this your registered address? Have you moved or died, I guess? And anything that was returned back to them, they say they've gone through and they've cleaned up the database that has the vote by mail active voters. And still, a couple months later, we still have 2,200, let's say, and that's an estimate, but 2,200 that are returned as undeliverable.
And
the problem is that we have all of these ballots out there at significant cost to the county, to the taxpayers, all of those ballots out there, and it's the vote by mail system is not working.
And because of what, 7,200 ballots that are unaccounted for? Or are there more than that?
No, 2,200 were ones where they were not able to be delivered by the Postal Service. But if you look at, if they issued 187,000, and we had 182,000 that were registered voters, and of those registered voters, about 88,000, let's say, actually returned their ballot, cast a vote. We still have, anywhere from 90 to 100,000 ballots that were unused.
Wow.
So not mailed back in.
So what happened to those, or is there any way of knowing?
There's no way of knowing. I'm sure everyone knows someone that, I forgot to vote, or, I saw that, but I wasn't going to be around, or for whatever reason, are not interested in the race, or whatever it may be, and that ends up in the trash and in our landfill.
Now, among those that were mailed in, do they check the signatures to make sure they match up?
There is a signature match check. That's part of the slow process of the actual counting of the ballot. So the vote by mail is returned to the county by whatever method. If people have returned it by postal service or if they've done it by Dropbox, et cetera, come into the county. The county then sorts those and says, okay, this ballot has been received. It's still in the envelope at this point. So the envelope's received, then it goes through the signature match process. But I have to tell you that there are temporary workers that don't have the FBI training that the employees have. And so, you know, they're looking at 3 and 4 signatures at a time that are scanned images of the envelopes as they come in, compared to a registration card, compared to a DMV. Sometimes it's the DMV stylus. That's really an awful signature. And sometimes government loan. So it's some type of signature that the county has on file. So it is compared, but I have to say there are a lot that are, some of the temporary workers were praised for being very efficient, but not necessarily pulling ones that did not look similar. We would have pulled more, I'll put it that way.
Okay. What about duplicate ballots?
So where someone has received 2, 3, 4, and we even had an account of someone who's received 5 ballots. That was up in Sonoma County, but there are many that we have turned back into the county saying this person received 2 or 3 ballots. It's the same name, similar name at the same address. So someone might have a maiden name, they might have a middle initial, they've gone into the DMV, re-registered their car or their license, and so another name comes through the VoteCal system that they can't match up exactly to the registration card. They get 2 envelopes. What could go wrong?
How would those people that are doing the recount discover that the 2 ballots were cast by one person?
Well, in theory, they tell us that their system is able to determine that someone has returned 2, let's say, envelopes, the same person. So there is a separate voter ID, and on the envelopes you can see that there's a number, and it will have a -1 for the first ballot issued for that person, and a -2 and a -3 and a -4 if they received 4 ballots. And so my suggestion to the county clerk's office back in March was, can you go through those ballot IDs and pull anything that has multiple ballots so that one person is receiving 1 ballot? And the answer at that point was that, well, we don't know which one is correct, which is insidious to me. I don't. So let's just say that the process, there are certain processes that have been in place for a long time, but as soon as it went to vote by mail to every active voter out there, we have reason to believe that the VoteCal system that has the registered voters has many extra voters in there. We'll call them extra. So the voter rolls are inflated, extra ballots get sent out, duplicate ballots get sent out to people, and it just leaves a lot of vulnerabilities, and to me, it's unacceptable. This is when someone else votes and they vote twice, it takes away my vote. So it's not even a Democrat-Republican issue. We are looking as closely at the Lynn Compton votes as we are looking at the Jimmy Paulding vote.
All right. Darcia, we need to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. We're talking with Darcia Stebbens, who is the person who asked for this recount, which is underway. We'll get back to her in just a moment here on KPRL. Welcome back to Sound Off. Dick Mason talking with Darcia Stebbens, and one question that I wanted to ask her is related to this recall. Darcia, who is paying for this recall effort? Or the recount, rather.
The recount, yes. So in the elections code, it refers to, you have basically three options if you want to question the election. One is a recount, one is a contest, and one is an investigation. So pretty much the only way you get to the investigation is if you are able to have enough evidence or see enough information that will get you to that part. So we opted for the recount, but a recount is expensive. The citizens who are a voter, which was me, can call for a recount. So I have to have a check. I have several people in this county, I'll call them concerned citizens, who have been assisting me paying for the recount. So we have a PAC called SLOCCAT, and it's two C's, SLOCCAT. That stands for SLO County Citizens Action Team. .org has a way for people to help contribute to this, but it's running about $3,000 a day in order to pay for the temporary workers counting and the county employees from the clerk's office.
All right. We've got a phone caller, so let's take the question. Good afternoon. You're on Sound Off.
Yes, good afternoon. I had a question. I understand that the extra staff workers that are performing the recount for the county are hired at $20 an hour. And I was curious just how many extra workers are there to be able to come up with this $3,000 a day charge?
Did you get that, Darcia? Well, Darcia, did you get that?
I did not hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got a little malfunction here. But basically what the gentleman asked was that he understands that there are about 8 workers that have been hired at $20 an hour. And then how do you come up with $3,700 a day, I think is what the county is charging you, are they not?
Yeah, there are some days that are that high. Others are about 3,000, and some have been as low as 2,600, depending on how much Elena Cano anticipates how many people we will need to have be there. But part of the dollar amount is 8 hours of her time plus her benefits that we're being charged. The deputy clerk and an assistant and another assistant, so they're helping with the recount process.
All right.
But we have to pay for their time.
Okay, so we're just about out of time. What do you hope to accomplish from this recount, Darcia? How do you see this serving the people of San Luis Obispo County?
Well, 2 different ways. One, we absolutely want to improve the process. So we will be coming back with a report that will indicate here are the vulnerabilities we have seen, here's the evidence of these vulnerabilities, and how we can correct them. Ultimately, we don't want to have the machines counting any ballots. We want to hand count the ballots at the precincts if possible, have one day of voting, election day, not 2 months of sending out ballots and counting ballots. The other thing is specific to the District 4 race, we want to have additional eyes on a lot of extra material that we're still requesting, be able to see that so that we can make sure that that count was in fact accurate. And if it wasn't, why not?
All right. Well, I appreciate the effort. Now, if people want to contribute to the cost, the fee for funding this recount, where is it they go?
It's at SLOCCAT, and it's SLOCCAT, so it's 2 C's, SLOCCAT.org. We'll have about our organization. It's a citizens action team. It's a PAC, and all funding can go through there. They charge a percentage, but at least then it does all of the required political contribution information.
And the total expense, you're estimating $100,000?
That was the estimate provided by County Clerk Elena Cano. We are now, I think, probably within the last week, maybe, of counting. So it may be less than that, but we're also given a final bill at the end and required to pay that. Now, if we can show if there are either fraudulent votes or votes not counted the way that the machine has counted, then that can be paid back to the citizens, and we would certainly want to be doing that.
And you're about halfway through the count. How far are you?
I think we're more than halfway because a lot of the time was spent sorting those ballots. So we're now on the 7th precinct sorting, and there are 23 plus mail ballot only precincts, so 24.
All right, Darcia. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you very much for joining us, and good luck today at the county elections office.
All right, thank you so much.
Darcia Stebbens, who is the one that asked for this recount. That's going to wrap it up here for Sound Off. We've got the news coming up next.